Hi everyone, I'm Sunaina, the manager at Tao Art Gallery, and I would like to welcome you to episode 1 of our segment, Through the Photographer's Lens. Today I will be in conversation with Amrita Diwanji, who is one of the 10 artists in our current ongoing show, Through the Lens. Amrita Diwanji is a professional photographer with a real zest for both food and travel. She was born and raised in Bombay, and she actually worked as a management consultant before quitting the industry to pursue her passion and establish Amrita Diwanji Photography in the year 2014. Her work has featured in various amazing publications, including Condé Nast Traveler, Vogue, Forbes, and she has also received many international awards for her work. She is fascinated by new people, places, cultures, and food, and she has also completed various of her own personal projects during her extensive travels, particularly reflecting the diversity of the landscapes that she herself interacts with. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome, Amrita, and thank you so much for being with us here today.
Hi, Sunaina. Thanks so much for having me.
Hope you're doing well.
All good, just enjoying the rains we had today.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your work and what travel is for you?
Sure. So travel for me, honestly, has become a very natural part of my life. As you mentioned in your introduction, I actually switched careers about 7 years ago and became a full-time photographer. And ever since, every year I take 3 months off and just travel to explore new places around the world. But of course, this year there's going to be a lot of change to that.
Definitely. When you are practicing your photography, is there something in particular that you are trying to capture with your photographs? Maybe you could specifically talk about your Peru photographs, because I think those are probably my favorite ones from the ones I've seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear. That was actually one of my favorite trips that I've been on. So the Peru chapter actually focuses on the diversity and grandeur of the Peruvian landscapes that I visited, and specifically the relationship between man and mountain, not to mention all the other land masses that Peru has to offer. And I think in my experience of visiting the country, I just found that each part of the country has such vastly different but equally beautiful open spaces. And I was basically trying to capture them in my photos. And also kind of speak a little bit about the subtleties of the relationship between man and mountain. Okay. So as you sorry, go ahead.
No, please finish.
Oh no, I was just saying, as you can probably see from some of my photos, whether it's man making his way to the valleys of Cusco, or kind of building man-made islands on Lake Titicaca, somehow he's managed to make his way, across the toughest of terrains and even really, really difficult altitudes. And that's basically what my series of Peru aims at capturing.
Nice. So you mentioned, open spaces and landscapes, and, looking at all your photos, I see that you are drawn to large landscapes. So in particular, could you talk about your Alaska prints? Because I think those are just the definition of you trying to capture these open spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Again, I think Alaska and Peru are very high up there in terms of places I've traveled to, but Alaska has to be like #1 for me at the moment. Honestly, the landscapes over there were nothing like I've ever seen before. They were just so raw and immense and majestic. Yeah. And that's basically what I was trying to capture through my images. And also, I also think my general experience of Alaska was partly due to the fact that I wasn't shooting these photos from the bubble of a cruise ship. We actually rented an RV and we drove around Alaska. We explored the state by road. And I think that really gave us the liberty to stop wherever we wanted, for however long we wanted. If you see something, you're driving by and you see an incredible sunset, we literally just stopped by the side of the road. And that just gave us the opportunity to get that perfectly timed shot. Even the photo of mine of Northwestern glaciers, taken from the kayak, I took that from my own kayak, like in the middle of the fjord. Of course, my heart was in my mouth with the camera being so close to the water, but yeah, that's a story I'll save for another day.
Yeah, so when you say we were traveling, is this usually with a group of photographers or artists, or who do you usually make these travels with?
No, so actually both Peru and Alaska trips were, I just traveled with my family.
Okay, nice. And you know, like just being in the art industry, I feel like we're always learning about curators, creators, makers, artists. So are there some photographers you are especially inspired by or would like to particularly talk about?
Yes, but I think this is going to fall a little bit in the commercial space as opposed to the art space, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I think, so David Loftus has been a huge inspiration for me. A lot of people know him as Jamie Oliver's photographer, but he also does a lot of work both within F&B and within travel as well.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of like the vivid colors that he brings to his photographs, as well as the ability that he has to kind of weave the most beautiful stories using imagery, I think those two things have really made a lasting impression on me, and as well as how I style my own photos, especially my kind of commercial food projects.
Yeah. So, you know, I have always like linked your work to like travel photography, but I'm aware that you are entering the food space and it's something that you love doing. So could you talk about your journey into how you got into, you know, food photography? Just from travel photography, did it like influence each other, or was it because of seeing these Jamie Oliver pictures that you felt like you wanted to get into this?
Sure. So I think there was a massive overlap. So as you know, as you already know, I wasn't always doing this. I actually was a management consultant, and I worked at a boutique firm in France and London, and then moved back to India and worked for a large MNC here. And then just kind of one day realized that this isn't what I want to do. I mean, photography for me has like, before it became a career, it's always been a passion. And I think that kind of did stem in travel photography. And then it sort of just organically made its way into food. Honestly, anyone who knows me will tell you that I'm obsessed with food. So one way or the other, I was always going to work in that industry.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I quit consulting, I kind of just quit with the idea of pursuing an MBA. And that didn't really happen because I organically explored photography, specifically food, and it just started off with kind of working for friends and working for chefs I knew, and one thing kind of led to another, and I just expanded my client base, and to be honest, never really looked back.
Okay. And you know, now you've kind of told us a little bit about the kind of photos that you take. Do you maybe have a preference when you are presenting these photos? Do you have like a particular surface you like to show on, or a specific style, etc., when you are printing your pictures?
Yes, actually. So in terms of a specific style, you probably would have noticed from seeing my photos that color for me, and that going back to that kind of, the vividness of imagery, that is quite important to me, that comes out specifically on print. I'm sure you've had this experience where an image you see on a laptop is completely different from an image that you see in print. So I think making that connection in terms of vivid imagery coming across as well as it does on a screen, as it does on paper, is quite important for me. And in terms of, I think you asked in terms of what I would prefer printing on. I think archival paper would be quite high up there.
Okay. Do you have any advice that you could share to any new photographers that are out there who are trying to get into the industry?
Yes, read your camera manual. I know it sounds really basic, but there are so many of us who go out there and we spend so much money buying like the fanciest of cameras, but we don't really have an understanding of how they actually work. And I think if you're a new photographer, I think one of the most basic things that you need to do is really understand the physics behind how your camera works. And there's no better place to do that than literally just read your camera manual from the first page to the last. None of us really do it. I'll confess I didn't do it for the longest time when I started off, but when I did, I just realized, I said, wow, everything I need to know is really in here. And once you kind of really understand how your camera works, photography is limitless. So yeah, I know it sounds basic, but I would say, yeah, please read your camera manual.
Are there any upcoming projects that you are excited about?
Unfortunately, most of my upcoming projects are on hold due to the pandemic, but I am very excited to see what the future of food photography is going to be like, or not specifically food photography, kind of any commercial project. It will be interesting to see how this is going to change with respect to the logistics of actually organizing a shoot. So how many people will actually physically be involved on set? Are people going to be placing a limit to that? Will this kind of result in a permanent change in this industry? So usually when I say, for example, if I'm working on a food project, it's me and usually a stylist on board and the entire client team. So it'd be interesting to see how many people are going to make a permanent move now to remotely art directing or styling projects virtually via video conferencing. At least until vaccines become available.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for answering my questions. I'm gonna actually play a quick round of this game called This or That, where I'm gonna be giving you two options, and you just have to pick the one that you like best.
Sure, sounds fun.
So, snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef or bungee jumping in New Zealand?
Snorkeling.
Okay. Filter coffee in India or Turkish coffee?
Filter coffee, definitely.
Suitcase or backpack?
Always backpack.
Really? I would pick suitcase. Travel wide or travel deep?
Travel deep.
Museums or gardens?
Sorry, I didn't hear that last one.
Museums or gardens?
Gardens.
Sand or snow?
Snow.
And adventure or relaxing?
Adventure.
So thank you so much for being a part of our segment Through the Photographer's Lens. And to all of our viewers, our current show Through the Lens will be on display until the 15th of June. So do check it out. It's curated by Supriya Shah Khanna from Eske Wonders. And the downloadable catalog is available on our website. And you can also look at the description box below for more information. And thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Sunena. Thanks so much for having me.